Media. It's supposed to be a reflection of us. But if only a select few get to hold the mirror, is what we see a fantasy?
One friendship ring to rule them all!
This episode is all about the things we put in our eyes and ears.
Now, the data tells us that we've got a pretty much 50-50 split between women and men on our TV screens. On radio, you're less likely to hear from women in the morning and at drive time. But one amazing thing is that right now on mainstream media, all our senior political reporters are women. So that's good, right?
Yeah, data doesn't tell the whole story, though. It's also about who's got the loudest voice in the room.
Yeah.
You often see two men paired with a woman whose job it is to be the mum and keep them in line. Māori media is also very siloed from mainstream media, and one of those has got a much bigger audience. Another recent example, during the COVID coverage, the daily media updates, there was only one Māori journalist in the press gallery, max two on occasion, and of a possible 709 questions that were asked, only 14 of them were about the impact that COVID would have on Māori.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I cannot even work out what that is as a percentage. It's not good.
I think officially that's minuscule.
Yeah. Is this much?
And it's all about who belongs. It tells us what we're capable of, what we can dare to dream to be. And I think we've also worked out in a time of crisis, we need to hear from all of the voices in the community.
Well, seeing is believing, and here are a couple of my personal heroes who staked a claim in the media landscape all for themselves. For generations, broadcasters and journalists have presented a version of the news that they thought was unbiased.
Theirs is a history somewhat saddened by wars with the white man. And it's only during the last generation that the hard feelings have been forgotten.
When you don't see yourself authentically represented in the media, you lose faith in the media. For Māori, being in the media and showing the world how we see things has taken a really long time. And in most cases, it's because someone went, you know what? If the media won't make space for me, I'm going to make space for myself. Two people who have done just that are Mihingarangi Forbes and Annabelle Lee-Mather. Their work on the Māori TV show Native Affairs won them kudos and awards. They both quit in 2015 over claims of political and editorial interference, but soon after carved out a new space with a new show.
Welcome to the Hui Māori Current Affairs for all New Zealanders. E taroa ki nei.
When did you decide we're going to do this ourselves?
What had become clear is that our style of journalism was no longer welcome or wanted at Māori television, and there was very much measures being put in place to try and control us and prevent us from telling those types of stories. I remember when Mihi quit because she came to work the next day and she was like, oh my God, I've had 40 job offers. And I was like, oh, that's good. So that's true. And then a couple of days later, I quit. And I saw her the next day and I was like, can you ring me? I don't think my phone's working. I've had no job offers at all.
This is her story. She tells this story. No one offered me jobs either.
What is your style of journalism?
I think if you were to describe our style of journalism, I think there's a strong thread of justice weaved through our stories, and not everyone's an angel, but that doesn't mean that they're not as worthy of being treated fairly or justly as anyone else.
Do you guys make stories about Te Ao Māori for a general audience, or do you make stories about Te Ao Māori for a Māori audience?
When I was at TVNZ back in the day, and Linda Clark was the political editor at TV1, I often in the morning would look at the story she was doing on the day, and then I'd go and find the kind of Māori angle to it. So then, she'd run that one, and then somewhere in the bulletin my story would run. And now I think it's so interesting because what I'm kind of doing is I'm doing both those stories melded into one now.
I'm going to ask you both, or either of you, to relay an anecdote of a time where you have felt that your particular Māori worldview was misunderstood by a manager, an editor, or a producer in a more mainstream media outlet.
TV3 every day. I remember I got a complaint against me for writing a VO about a parihaka decision where I said, you know, as a result of that invasion, well, I wasn't allowed to use the word invasion, of parihaka, you know, people had died. But today, now we know the story of parihaka properly. You know, we know that how hideous it was. But you couldn't say that 20 years ago.
I think the difference between now and then is that we have Māori media outlets now, but what hasn't changed is that in mainstream newsrooms, even though there might be some great Māori reporters in there, Māori are still underrepresented editorially. We're not seeing them, you know, in holding those positions of power in newsrooms, and that's a big problem because that's where angles are often decided.
Do you have any advice for a mainstream newsroom about how they can do bicultural reporting better?
You have to have it through the top. It should come down through your HR strategies so that when you're employing, your, you know, it's like a sinking lid policy that everyone that you employ has a bicultural lens. Because it won't change otherwise. You can have a guy on Espina who is amazing, but you need a whole room full of them.
A lot of awesome wahine Māori have paved the way for me as a Māori woman to do what I do and have a voice in the media. And hopefully, the more diverse communities see themselves, the braver they'll be in joining our ranks and helping to change that narrative. Things have gotten way better, but we still have a long way to go in becoming the decision makers, the editors, the directors, the producers, the executives. But a lot has happened in the last 10 years, and you best believe that that change is coming too.
They are amazing women.
Yep. Hot auntie energy.
Yeah. Totally. And they make the point so beautifully that what is on screen is never going to change until there are diverse voices behind the cameras and, more importantly, upstairs making the decisions, right? And, you know, tiny little examples, like I was on an episode of The Project one night, there are 4 hosts. Reasonably often, there are 4 men. One night there were 4 women, and it was an historic moment, and photographs were taken. So
I bet lots of angry comments were written as well.
And people were frightened before it went to air, right?
Yeah.
But don't take this all from us, of course. We decided to ask some of our favourite media personalities how representation has impacted them.
Okay, you ready to be questioned?
Yes.
I'm a trans woman, and the truth is most representation on film and media has always been about trans people, trans women in particular, being the butt of a joke.
Characters like the wheelchair user in Me Before You, those characters aren't helpful. They just serve an able-bodied audience. I don't know if people think that by having one wheelchair user, you're somehow reflecting all wheelchair users.
I think I was 5 or thereabouts, and it was watching the Top Twins on TV. I remember it very vividly because I went over and talked to my next door neighbour about it, and he said, "You should never watch them, Karen, because they're lesbians." So my first time of seeing someone that I felt looked like me on the TV was a really shaming negative experience, which is a bit of a bummer.
I was in primary school, and David Bowie's China Girl video came on probably Ready to Roll, and Chinese New Zealander Ji-Ling Ng was the star in that movie, the romantic lead, and I was like, yes, she's Asian, she's from New Zealand, there is a chance. People like David Bowie like girls like me.
Michèle A'Court from McDonald's Young Entertainers. I think I was 11 years old when I first saw her dancing and singing on screen with that troupe. I felt really in awe of her, and because I'd never seen anyone my age or race before on screen.
There's been, you know, a rise of the presence of disability in some children's television, which I think is great. I love the idea that eventually when I have children, I'll be able to show them television shows with people that look like me in them.
When Pose came out, Ryan Murphy and Janet Mock, it's the first time they had a trans and queer cast of colour being represented on screen in front of the camera, behind the scenes. It was groundbreaking.
I guess I could watch myself on the television, but I guess hopefully more and more there are people that look and represent me out there, but certainly there's still nowhere near enough people to get proper full representation.
And I think that's all we want. Like, I think all we want is to have more than one Asian on screen.
I think there's been a lot of us who've never been represented, and you kind of get used to that. But I'm looking forward to the change.
We have to keep doing the work, and we have to keep pushing. We have to keep pushing.
So who are some of our favourite fictional characters that make us feel empowered?
I've got back into like coming of age movies, things like Booksmart, Lady Bird, 8th grade. This teenage girl that's kind of nuanced and interesting, and I just can't help but think, you know, I'm getting close to 30, but I'm like, if I'd seen this when I was a teenager, this would have just made such a difference to my life. Even like in 8th grade, the character as a teenage girl has acne. And you're like, I have never seen acne in a teen film before. It's like, it's so simple, but yeah, I thought that was like quite an interesting change to the genre that I really enjoy as a fully grown adult.
For me, you know, it's important to see strong women of colour, but the characters where I feel the most seen are the ones where they're allowed to be ridiculous. So, like Monty and Kōwhai from Aroha Bridge, Mindy Kaling. I want to just see weird and stupid people of colour as well, just doing their thing. Just like me.
I get really excited whenever I see stroppy middle-aged women. I don't know why. So I love Karen from Will and Grace because she's small and nuggety and dirty. And I get tremendously excited whenever I see Helen Mirren or Judi Dench in anything because that's aspirational.
There's a lot to be said for women characters who do like gross out stuff as well. I always quite like to see. Like when you grow up just watching like American Pie and you think that like the whole world of kind of just grossness is something for men. And you're like, actually, we're all gross, you know?
Love a fart joke.
Love a fart joke.
Oh, God, yeah.
More of them, please.
Oh, excuse me.
Well, the thing is that representation has real-world implications as well. There was this study done called the Scully effect where they found that women who watched The X-Files in the 90s on a regular basis were 50% more likely to go into sort of STEM professions. Which is pretty incredible because you see it and then you want to be it.
Yes. Which is great for The X-Files and Hollywood, but what about for the film industry here in Aotearoa? How are we doing? Well, there is a way that we can test for that, if you will just excuse me.
What's up with that?
Toilet, probably.
The Bechdel test is a really quick way to see how well represented women are in film. 1, are there 2 women characters with their own names, not just stripper 1, stripper 2? 2, do they talk to each other? 3, about something other than men. Easy, right? Wrong. Even here in New Zealand, there are a bunch of famous films where you won't see 2 women having a yarn together about, well, anything. So this is what some iconic New Zealand movies would look like if they passed the Bechdel test. Action!
Hey, have you ever noticed that all the good characters in Middle-earth are white?
And what is it about casting all the orcs with Polynesians?
Yeah, what the fuck is up with that, bro?
You know what else is really annoying? These sleeves get absolutely soaked when you do the dishes.
Anyway, it was kind of itchy, so I pulled out a mirror to have a look down there, and there was nothing.
Isn't that a good thing?
No, there was nothing.
It was gone?
You two do realize that we are vampires, no?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Moti?
It'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's a good brew, this one.
He's a good girl. He's a good girl. Good girl. Good girl.
What's up, bitches?
What's up?
Are you in the right headspace to receive some news that might possibly hurt you? And that's feminism.
Oh, don't be silly. Heavenly Creatures is fine.
I guess.
I mean, the winner got what they wanted, but...
It's a very violent film. I loved that. All the wigs.
It was great.
So fun.
Never looked cuter than as an orc.
I was hot for you, if I may say that.
Thank you.
You're
all
welcome.
did a great job.
Also, if anyone involved in the making of any of those original films wants to sue us, we will counter-sue for you being sexist. And also, it's the internet, so it's international waters. You don't have a case.
Suck on that. Do you think representation is changing?
I do think the internet has kind of created a choose-your-own-adventure style situation. You know, you can curate your own social media and consume what you want. Still does privilege certain kinds of people, but there are tools like Narrative Muse, which is a site where you can fill out a big, long survey about all your tastes, and it will match you with content created by women and non-binary people.
Yeah,
so
great.
stuff like that is great.
It's cool.
Yeah.
And on a final and slightly corny note, none of this on the rag stuff would exist if we hadn't built a media space that we couldn't see and people hadn't watched it. So thank you very much for listening, watching, commenting, most of you. We should probably go and make an action film or something now.
Yeah. Or a musical? I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Just,
Ready?
Yeah.
Hit it.
On the rag.
On the rag. On the rag. On the rag.
On the rag.
Yeah.
Break it down now. This is how I feel.